Lisa Brandel. I am in recovery for mental health. I have worked with people in addiction for over a decade now, and I'm one crazy but beautiful human being.
Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today. We really appreciate it. Could you start off by sharing a little bit about your childhood?
Oh, sure. My parents were beautiful, wonderful, caring, loving, young, beautiful people. And I was a mental wreck from about age 4 for no reason. That was my existence. I had these dreams on repeat of being chased by evil and anxiety all the time, and I was a mess. And not that I look old, but back in the 70s and in the early 80s, kids didn't have mental health issues. Mm-hmm. So this went on undiagnosed for a very long time, and I became very proficient at masking what I knew was not normal. Mm-hmm. So that was I always knew that I wasn't exactly like everybody else because I sat and thought about how I wanted to die a lot. And, I had one attempted suicide when I was, I think, 16 years old. Until finally one day I was just like, I can't do this anymore. And I got the doctor to send me to counseling for the first time. Mm-hmm. And I was a wreck. So my mom was driving me down here to Urbana. And she said, and my mom was a beautiful person. Please don't misunderstand this. But she looked at me and she was like, "Are you going to do this all the time?" Which made me shrink inside. I couldn't, I had failed because I had stopped pretending that everything was okay. And so I faked my way through counseling and pretend ho. I'm okay.
Right.
I'm okay, you're okay.
Right. Everybody's fine.
Everybody's fine. I'm normal. I just learned to accept the pain. Okay. I just learned to accept the pain. And I told myself a story that became true. You're never going to do anything, so why does it matter how you feel? You're not going to help anybody. You're worthless. You might as well just exist. And then I had periods where I would have on repeat panic attack and stuff. So it was unfortunate, very unfortunate.
Yeah, absolutely. So could you talk a little bit about the journey that you've experienced of getting to where you are at today in your life?
I would love to. And it actually starts off with people who are in addiction. And honestly, I don't think if it weren't for the people in addiction that maybe things would have been the same. My cousin was getting a tattoo. He was getting a divorce, and I'm an artist, so that was one of my hyperfixations, art. And he was getting a tattoo. He had me help him with the design. We went there, and all of a sudden this young man who was giving him a tattoo looked at me. And I don't know why to this day, but he started talking about his heroin addiction. And I was fascinated by that because, first of all, I've always felt that people in addiction just had an expression of the same kind of mental health problems I was having, but it expressed differently. So he was telling me all about it, and I was asking him questions, and he was answering very honestly. I mean, and now I'm a CDCA and a peer support specialist and all this other stuff, and looking back on that, I didn't realize at the time how special that was because he was being raw with me. And I don't know if it was something about my face or whatever, but he was being real honest with me. I walked away from that experience very changed. And then the other thing that happened simultaneously is that I lost my husband to cancer, and then my father died of a heart attack 33 days later.
Wow.
And I had to bring my mom into the house. And I was broken, I was grieving, I was in bad mental health, and I discovered that my uncle, who was a Vietnam veteran, was spiraling out of control with at least alcohol and probably pills too. And I didn't know how to help him. at the same time. And I was angry and scared. And the fact is, to tell you how scared I was, there was a point in time for about a year that I lived at my house, and my mom did mostly, but then my uncle was kind of manipulating and controlling the situation. So we were taking care of my grandmother where he was living while he was out doing whatever he was doing, which was not working. It was drinking and whatever. But when he was home, I would go up there where we would be taking care of Grandma, and I would stop at Tim Hortons and get a dozen donuts because I wanted to have something to give to the police in case I got up there and he had killed himself and my grandmother and my mother.
Oh my. Wow.
That's how intense it really was. Not that please don't hear me wrong, he was not a bad man.
Right.
But he was a very broken man and a very sick man, and he didn't get any help. My uncle killed himself. Ultimately, he killed himself. I was the first person to find him. I tried CPR. And after he killed himself, and I spiraled until finally I started looking up, lobotomies and like electric shock therapies and stuff, because throughout the course of my life, I tried several times to get on medication. I wasn't a complete martyr. I was trying to help myself a little bit here and there when things got to the point where I thought I was going to break. But medication never worked for me, ever. And it come to find out why, when they did a genetic test on me, is I have plenty of serotonin. I have plenty of dopamine. I don't have the chemical that carries those to the receptor.
Huh.
So I have an infinite amount of pain that I can feel and only so much happiness.
Wow. Wow. Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yes, it is.
It was also cool when I found that out, because I was like, see, it's not a made up thing.
Right.
I have a genetic thing right here, paper that says it. And I finally looked over at my mom, who was sitting there, I'm sure worried about me. And I said, I've got to go to counseling. And she said, thank God. And then I went to counseling. 3 counseling sessions in, my mother starts peeing blood. And now I have a mental health breakdown and a terminally ill woman to take care of. And it was one of the hardest points of my life. Like, I felt abandoned by God. I felt abandoned by the world, because by this point, I had buried everybody in my family except for my grandmother, who had Alzheimer's, and my mother. And now I was burying my mother, and I was going to be alone in the world. And I lost my ever-loving mind. I mean, I had panic attacks that lasted 12 hours at a stretch.
Wow.
Yes. But the thing is, there was a couple things I knew I didn't want. Number one, I didn't want to come off addicted to a drug. Because my doctor was like, here, have some Xanax. And by this point, I had started, researching addiction and trying to understand it and that sort of thing. And my counselor was like, coming off of those is really not easy. And so I was like looking for alternatives. I went to my doctor. I was like, I won't take Xanax anymore. Can you give me promethazine? Because promethazine, antipsychotic, it's for nausea, which I couldn't eat at the time. Even the repetition of chewing made me want to throw up. Like, I was that fight or flight. Mm-hmm. And I've never really been this honest with people. People know that I had a bad point, but they didn't know how bad. Like, I was sitting in a dark room, chain smoking cigarettes, and I couldn't watch videos because they would trigger anxiety. I couldn't listen to music; it would trigger anxiety. It was just a mess. I ended up losing like 40 pounds. It was crazy. Then Mom died. And I was basically to the point where God, the universe, the world, my mother, everything was saying, you've got to feel this. You have to feel this, and you can't mask it. And that's when I realized that if you didn't do something, it will break you. And I thought, if nothing changes, nothing's going to change. And I got up, put the cigarette out, got up, put my jacket on. It was the dead of winter. Drove to counseling. My counselor was sitting right there. And she was like, she goes, "What made you come in?" I said, "I'm going to die if I don't do something different. And I don't want to die."
Wow, that's powerful.
And she said, "Welcome to life." And from that point on, I realized what it was going to take for me to get healthy. And it was cold SOB work. And it was give yourself no quarter. And give yourself no excuse. And this is scary, do it anyway. Because it was the only way I was ever going to challenge my thinking, the only way I was ever going to get better. And so I decided, in memory of my uncle, I wanted to go and help people with chemical dependency issues. And thing that I thought that I brought to the table was, I maybe didn't ever I smoked. That's a chemical dependency.
Yeah.
I didn't do heroin or meth or anything like that. But here's the thing. There's something that somebody like me can give to them that they didn't already have. And that is not only the knowledge of how to sit with uncomfortable feelings, unmedicated, but also the understanding that the pain does and can end.
And being able to piece it together like that it's how you were able to, you were given the tools and, people to hear what you were going through, and people to be able to share a little bit of their experience or what they have seen, and piecing together your experience with your uncle and the guy at the tattoo shop, and the psychological pain that you had struggled with the loss of your dad and your husband and your mother, being able to really see all of those things. And one, you're here and you're starting to feel a little bit better, and this is starting to work. Like there's got to be a little bit of relief that started to come along too.
Absolutely. Abso-freaking-lutely. Now, do I still have the depression? Do I still have my other little eccentricities? I do. But you know what? That over-analyzing thing that I have done my whole life, that, I started to look at that as being my superpower and not my detriment.
Right.
What the difference between who I am now and who I was then is the fact that if I made a mistake then, it was like, okay, I'm done. And now I'm like, well, poo, let's try this a different angle now. And then I'll reanalyze and go at it.
So as you are continuing to grow and you're developing in your personal life, and that stability, we'll say, is really starting to come through, what are you doing professionally as part of your journey to where we are now?
I started working in a rehab prison in security. Yep.
How'd you pick that?
Actually, I didn't think I was going to get it because I was a professional artist for a long time. I had some experience working with people in addiction and whatnot. I didn't think I was going to get it. And the man, and I've told him this to his face today, just a month ago, D. Thomas, who was the head of security, took a chance on me. Because I was pretty raw and green. And within 3 months' time, I was the head of shift.
Wow.
Yes. Because I fell in love with the people. When I looked out over the people, I didn't see prisoners or dirty people or felons or whatnot. I saw people like me. I saw the face of Jesus in these people. And sometimes people just want somebody to listen and not have the answers, because that's my second pet peeve. My first pet peeve is not asking questions. The second pet peeve is solving everybody's problems. You steal people's power that way. If somebody would have come in to me and been like, poof, there's a magic pill. You take that, you'll never have depression again, and you're going to be free at last, free at last. That's not my power, is it? That's not my power.
Right.
And it wouldn't last because it's an illusion.
Right. Yes.
So it's like how I teach Bible study and how I teach recovery are the same. I don't teach you what to think. I teach you how to think and to think.
As part of your journey, so you worked in the prison rehab for some time, and then where did you kind of go from there?
I went in the same program, I went out into the probation departments and started teaching classes, cognitive behavioral therapy classes. And I worked with people in probation. And I ended up doing classes at a place called the Recovery Zone in Champaign County. I was teaching classes there, and the then director looked at me and he said, "Man, I wish I had you on my staff." I was like, make me an offer. Because I loved what I did and I loved the people there, but I also really loved what they were doing there. I could see a lot of potential there. And he did, and it was a terrible offer. It made no financial sense whatsoever for me to do. I was losing benefits, I was losing money on the hour, and yet I looked at that, and as I prayed over it and looked at it, I was like, this is where I'm supposed to be. So I went in there, and 2 months later, he looked at me and he says, "I'm leaving. I'm putting you up for the directorship." Which is it was still not a good move money-wise, and it still wasn't a good move, but it was the best move one of the best things I've ever done. I took over the recovery zone January the 1st, and I was completely overwhelmed. I was like, I am nowhere near capable of doing this. Oh well.
Your entire story has been about empowerment, and empowerment of others is such a blessing when you can do it, and life-saving when you receive it.
Exactly. It's not about me or you or anybody saving anybody else's life, because we can't.
Nope.
All we can do is offer them the tools, and they have to pick them up and use them. And that was the same with me. My counselor could have given me every piece of literature about everything, and if I didn't pick that up, I wasn't going to do anything. My priest could have given me every prayer in the book, but if I don't pray it, it doesn't, it's not doing me anything. And that's the thing. That is the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is the thing.
It is.
It's not about, I get a lot of praise because I help people. I have cancer, and I'm not going to live. And I still go out and feed people and do things, and people are, "Oh, you're such an inspiration." And the thing is, I'm not. I have put my name and my word on the line, saying that you can fight and you don't have to give up. And now my word is on the line. I can't just go, "I give up, I faint."
Right.
Right? That's putting my money where my mouth is. But it's still, I can do this all day, every day, but it's still you picking up what I have to say and applying it to yourself and your circumstance.
Yes.
You may never face, God, I hope not, you may never face terminal diagnosis or life-limiting diagnosis. But that doesn't matter. If you can take one thing that I've said today and either apply it to yourself or give it away to somebody else, then it was worth me learning it.
Absolutely.
The way I've always looked at the recovery zone and different recovery places is you should be with me for as long as it takes, and then you should go away because you don't need me anymore. This is not me becoming your new heroine. This is about me helping you to get where you need to go, learning how to do that work-life balance. And it's like, okay, yes, we need to learn how to have fun with good mental health and sobriety, but we also need to learn that some days are up like this and some days are up like this, but most days are just like this. And we got to do all that work. It goes back also to what I said earlier about if a guy handed me one pill and said, take this, you'd be do you think for a second if I had one pill I could take and my mental health was good, that I would have any skin in this game? Do you know how many people I've handed tools to get healthy with? And how many of those people wouldn't have had that piece in their puzzle if I hadn't done that? If I hadn't done the work, I wouldn't be here.
Right. So this has been really spectacular and such a enlightening experience for myself, and I know the viewers will really get a lot out of this. On the last note, is there a words of wisdom, cliche that has spoken to you that you could share with somebody who is maybe struggling, having a bit of an off day, that you could share?
Oh, heavens. There's a couple different things. Let go, let God, accept life on life's terms. But I think probably all things are temporary. All things are temporary. As bad as I have felt, and I'll be honest with you, I'm in chemotherapy right now. I don't feel good a lot. And if I hadn't put the work in on my mental health, I probably wouldn't be fighting it. And here's the thing. All things are temporary. The pain you feel right now will not last forever. The anxiety that you have right now is temporary. The craving that you get will go away. It's what we feed is what we will be. And that's probably the biggest thing that I think that I want to tell people. That I want to look at I love you. I never met you. I may never meet you. And by the time you read this or hear this, I may be gone. But there's somebody out there that loves you for no reason. And I'm one. Because I was given love first for no reason.
Thank you.
You're welcome.